1972 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. And this car is a piece of iconic American muscle. But people are a little polar when it comes to the looks of these cars. They either seem to absolutely love them or they hate them. I'm on the side that I love it. I think it's a great looking car, but I will admit it was starting to look a little 70s. Still a very cool car. And the 72 Trans Am can definitely pack a punch because stuffed in between those front fenders is an absolutely delectable engine, that being the 455 HO, high output. We're talking 300 net horsepower at 4,000 RPM and 415 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM. Now that might not sound like much, but remember, by 1972, everybody was using net ratings. If you want a comparison, the 1972 Chevelle with a 454 was only rated 270 net horsepower. The Trans Am specs are even more impressive when you think about its compression ratio, which was 8.4 to 1. But Pontiac had some great engineers around that time, and they definitely beefed up this car as much as they could. You know, things like a Rochester Q-Jet on top of an aluminum intake manifold, heads with massive 111cc chambers, even a free-flowing exhaust. But the point that I'm trying to make is that even with an absolutely crap compression ratio, this car could still burn some rubber.
You hear that, son? I love the smell of burnt rubber in the morning.
The 72 Trans Ams with automatic transmissions outsold the manual transmission cars by a ratio of 2 to 1. But guess what? This car features the 4-speed manual, and it is a close ratio.
USA! USA! USA!
Oh wait, no, it's actually a Canadian car. But it was made in the USA and then exported to Canada. So I guess that still counts. That makes the score USA 1 and Canada, 1. You got a cool owner here who's still drag racing his Trans Am, so skedaddle, get out of here. I'm gonna give you a point. They didn't sell many of the Firebird Trans Ams in 1972. There were only 458 equipped with the 4-speed. We all have to remember this was prior to Smokey and the Bandit Fever, so they really weren't selling that many of these cars for a few more years. Rear gearing on this car is the stock 342, and it's coming in at a curb weight of 3,695 pounds. But enough talk about the Trans Am, let's check out its opponent. This is a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Super Sport 396. But this just isn't any run-of-the-mill rat. This one is an L78. So we're talking about 375 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 415 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM. And on initial presentation, you might think, well, geez, that really outguns the Trans Am. But remember, these specs are listed in gross horsepower ratings. And if you convert to net horsepower ratings, the Trans Am actually has a significant torque advantage, and horsepower ratings are relatively similar between the two cars. The major issue with the 69 Camaro, especially those equipped with the big block, was traction. These cars loved to wheel hop. But if you can get that under control, these cars are absolute rockets. There were a few transmissions available. You could get a 3-speed automatic, that being the TH400, but not this Camaro because it features the absolutely tasty 4-speed manual. So it's going to match up really well against that Trans Am. There were quite a few rear gear options available that year in the Camaro. You could get anywhere between a 256 and a 488. And what do you think this Camaro is stuffed with? 456 gears. It might be a little bit too much for the car, but you know what? It does have an L78, and those things can definitely rev, so I guess we'll see. Curb weight was about 3,600 pounds for the big block, so slight weight advantage to the Camaro. And when I was researching for this video, I came across an option that was available in the 1969 Camaro, and it is one of the strangest things I've ever seen. They offered an option for liquid tire chains. It was $23, I had no idea what that meant, so I had to dig in a little bit more. Apparently they would put a switch on the dash, and when you hit that switch, it would activate these canisters above the rear wheels, and those would then spray some sort of traction promoting chemical directly onto the tire. This was only an option through Chevrolet in 1969, and they sold about 2,600 or 2,700 of these units, with the majority going into their full-size cars, but you could get it in a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro. And I know they still make chemicals kind of like this, but I never knew that you could get it directly from the factory installed in your car where it would spray it for you directly onto the tires. That is awesome. But enough talk about these two cars. Let's see how they do on the drag strip. Thanks for checking out this Cars and Zebras Quickie. I do appreciate you watching, and of course, I'll see you at the next one.